Hi, first graders. Today we're going to focus on the sun and shadows. And I want us to go outside and watch what happens to the shadow as the day passes. So I'm going to be showing you the same picture over and over and over again so you can see what happens to the shadow in one entire day.
All right, first grade Cougars, it's Mrs. Belatash, and I'm outside at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I want to talk about the directions and the sun and shadows. So I have 4 directions listed on my paper: north, south, east, and west. And I have a box on my paper, and it is casting a shadow. So in order to have a shadow, I need to have a light source, and the light source is the sun. And I have an object that blocks the light, and that casts a shadow. All right, so I want you to see where the shadow is in relation to the sun. In the morning, the sun rises in the east. And if the sun is in the east, the shadow is in the west. It's the opposite direction of the source of light. I'm going to mark where the shadow is right now, and then we're going to watch this shadow throughout the day. Okay, boys and girls, so now it is 9 o'clock, 1 hour later, and you can see that the shadow has moved a little bit. And so I'm going to draw the line again, and we're going to track how the shadow moves throughout the day. It is 10 a.m. and I'm going to draw another line to mark the time. Boys and girls, I got a little behind. Right now it is almost 3 o'clock. So I'm sorry, I missed one of the times. But you can see that the shadow continues to move.
All right, first graders. So we were outside and we saw how the shadows changed throughout the day. In the morning, the shadow's really long. And as the day went past, the shadow got shorter and shorter. And then it went to the other side and then it got long again. So it's really interesting because that's a pattern, right? We see the shadow moving. And now what I want us to do is I want us to get our flashlight, and I want you to get a glue stick and a piece of paper. And boys and girls, I want you to write on your paper the directions like we did on the paper outside. N stands for north, underneath it is south, over here is east, and west. And boys and girls, there's a fun way to remember what the directions are. So one thing is to say, never eat soggy waffles. And then it goes right back. So it's a circle, right? Never eat soggy waffles. Or you could say, never eat squishy worms. See if you can come up with something funny to help you remember the order of the directions. Never eat sour watermelon. What do you think?
All right, so I want you to have your paper like this, and I want you to have, oh look, here's a little shadow from the light that's above. So I want you to have a glue stick, I want you to have your paper like this, and then you're going to get your flashlight. I'm going to turn off the light so that we can see the shadow better. All right, I'm back in the dark science lab, and I'm going to turn on my flashlight. Yeah, there we go. So now I can see. I can see because there's light. So in the morning, when we looked at the shadows, the light came from the east. That's the sun. And the shadow was in the west. Is our shadow in the west? Yes, it is. So here's the sun. I have the shadow, the sun in the east, and the shadow is in the west. And when it's really early in the morning, when the sun is low in the sky, the shadow is so long. Now, the sun is starting to rise. Really, the earth is turning. And as the sun rises in the sky, the shadow starts to change. The shadow is getting shorter. All right, and the sun is going up even higher. And now, boys and girls, the sun is directly overhead. And do you see? The shadow is super tiny. Super tiny. It's right under my glue stick. And now the sun is starting to go to the west. And when the sun sets in the west, the shadow is in the, where is it? In the east. Boys and girls, I want you to play around with the flashlight and the shadow. Notice that the sun rises in the east and the shadow's in the west. The sun crosses the sky and the light, when the sun is straight over at noon, the shadow is really small. The sun sets in the west and the shadow's in the east. All right, have fun playing with shadows.
So boys and girls, I'm going to give you a few challenges. I know we can't do them right now, but the next time you're outside, I want you to see if you can do some fun things with your shadow. So, can you make a wide shadow and then a narrow shadow? Can you hide your shadow? Is that possible to hide your shadow? Can you make a circle around a stick on the ground? So you make a shadow circle somehow. Can you make a shadow with 3 arms? You might need some help. Can you make your shadow jump? Jump up and down? Can you make your shadow do it? Can you make a shadow on the wall and on the ground at the same time? These are some fun things that you can do with your shadow. We are going to finish up today with some work in our science notebook. So get your science notebook, make sure you have a pencil, and you're going to get the page that says sun and shadows. That's what it looks like. And you're going to glue this into your science notebook, okay? So now we've got this in your notebook. We're going to put the date. For me, it is September 30th, 2020. But you guys are doing it on a different day. And I'm going to read the question. How can we use the sun to create shadows? What can we do to make a shadow by using the sun? So the sun is the source of light, right? It's a natural source of light. What did we do when we went outside? Well, we had an object, right? And the sun cast a shadow. So the first thing I want to do is I want to draw a picture. So this is the picture that I drew, boys and girls. I've got the sun on this side. So if the sun is on this side, we know the shadow is on the other side of the tree. So I drew a tree and the shadow is on the ground on the opposite side of the sun. Okay? And then I wrote, I can use the sun and a tree to make a shadow. Now, you don't have to say tree. You could say, I can use the sun and a stick. I can use the sun and my hand. I can use the sun and a toy to make a shadow. You write what you want to do, how you want to make your shadow. All right, next week we're going to talk about how light goes through things. See you next week, Cougars.